Our final presentation, but by no means the least, is by Anay, and Anay is going to be talking about how to use AI to help people, practice better nutrition, which I think is an extremely important area, made even worse, unfortunately, by the pandemic, where we're all stuck at home and eating things that we shouldn't be eating. So, take it away, Anay.
Thank you, Nisha. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Anay, and my project today is EatRight, which is a nutrition app to help people get their nutrition back up. So basically EatRight is an app that tracks and suggests foods for users based on their nutrition. And it's much like what you would consider like Weight Watchers or other apps that are very famous today. And one thing that is unique about EatRight is that it has personalized data based on the user rather than generic data. And it uses AI to interpret the calorie and nutrition intake to suggest food that would be good for the user. So unfortunately, during the pandemic, many people said that their eating and nutrition habits have massively declined. And eating worse food leads to worse health, which in this situation was not a good cause. So I created EatRight, just like other food apps, to recommend healthy and tasty foods for users to eat. Like I said, the most unique part about EatRight was the user personalization. This means that users will have their own data, and we start out with the generic database. The database has stuff that most commonly people eat, like fruits, vegetables, different types of cuisines like Italian, Indian cuisine, and other cuisines. It stores the newest data that the user inputs and deletes the oldest, so that only the user data should remain. The AI itself is powered by Navigator, which is through AIClub. I use the classification models, and the labels of this would be the all known foods. I trained it with the k-nearest neighbors model, where the AI uses similar parameters to match labels. I used Flask to design this app. For those of you who don't know, Flask is a micro-web framework in Python, which means that it's a tool that developers use to build websites in Python. The top image shows just a snippet of the initialized code, and the last code is app.run, which means that it'll run my website onto a website on my computer. It is a local host, and it uses HTML and CSS files to route between pages. These routes are different, they wire different URLs together. So whenever you click, let's say, a different type of YouTube video, well, in the backend, then what is happening is a route is actually routing you to that different URL, and that URL has a page that'll show that YouTube video. So that's what's happening in the background, and that's what I had to learn for this project. A lot of the HTML and CSS that I learned was from that from the YouTube channel I linked there by Pretty Printed. So you can go and check them out. And how the app actually works is that I use Flask to connect HTML to Python scripts through a local host, which is just a website on my computer. I created an AI that retrains and with a different database, but with a similar model, so that the model stays the same while the data stays different. I also had to learn a lot about CSS and styles because I didn't know that much about HTML, but creating a website is challenging. I have a demo. Over here, this is just a demo of the website. As you can see, it's running on my computer. It's not an actual domain. So usually what you would do is the user can input the date on the calendar. I've already done so here. So let's just go here. And as you can see, I haven't added anything to our list yet. So one food that already pops up is pasta, and there's a few that have already popped up in my practices. But what I've done is that to add personalization, you can actually add different kinds of foods that you would eat. So let's say I want to eat ice cream right now. And let's say, obviously it has no protein because it's, let's just say it has 100 carbohydrates and 200 fat, let's just say. So I'll submit that. And as you can see, ice cream now pops up on the list. So when we go back here, and I go back to the day, I can now add ice cream to the list. So as you can see, this database will be adding different kinds of foods that the user would like to eat and taking out the old ones so that it becomes more personalized. Now we go to the AI. This link actually takes me to a domained website in AIClub where I ran my project. So this model was trained, and it was trained on the generic database. So what it will do is it'll take in parameters when it's loading, while it's loading. It'll take in parameters such as calories and nutrition intake, and it'll predict the food that I want to have. Right now, the only working ones are the calories and the food type, but I plan to add the time of day and different feelings for humans later so that it becomes more personalized. Let's say I want something with 250 calories, and let's say I'm looking for some Italian food. And I wait for that to predict, and yeah, it says pizza. So that's great. And let's say I'm just really hungry, and it'll predict Alfredo pasta. So as you can see, the AI is predicting off a generic list of data sets. But what I really hope is that it'll take this data from the user and it'll actually be able to use more user personalized data. Right now we have a generic database, but as the user uses more, then the AI will become more attuned to the user. So let's go back to the slides. And in the future, like I said, there's many things that I want to do in the future to make this app better and more usable for people. Such as first, apart from taking it to a domain website, which it already has, I would rather directly integrate it to the website through the Python code rather than redirecting it. I also want to automate the inputs for the activity sites. As you saw, I had to manually put in those inputs to say what I wanted, but what I would rather prefer is that it automatically puts them in from the day's tracking. I also am planning to do more frequent training of data, which means that I will set my AI to automatically train rather than the users having to manually train it through the project. And that's mainly my project. Thank you for listening. Yep.
Thanks very much, Anay. So I did have a question. So I think this sort of this personalization is something that's very, it's one of those things that AI enables, right? Is an extremely personal sort of experience. So can you think of any other areas where it could be applied that are on the general idea of, living better in terms of like, eating better food is definitely one of them. Have you thought about any other areas where it could help me guide my life?
Yeah, so actually, a lot of things that's a great question, by the way. So a lot of things that other apps do is they actually, they use your location to suggest different restaurants to you. So if EatRight knew the different kinds of foods that you were eating and you were automatically able to find that, then it could cooperate with other apps, and especially now people are going out more, to figure out what restaurants near you would have this type of cuisine or this type of food that's good for you, that you like commonly eat and that you like. So I think that definitely that's also another branching area where you can connect to other places like Yelp. You can get some information about different kinds of foods. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to do with tracking someone's food intake and what they're eating.
Well, that sounds really good. I can completely imagine that if I was in a strange city, for example, or even in a different country, being able to understand what I like to eat, for example, the fact that I'm vegetarian, or if I was vegetarian, right? Or if there were certain things I didn't eat, and being able to connect that to helping me find local restaurants would be an awesome thing. It's a very personalized kind of experience. Very nice. So let's see, I think there could be one other question. So somebody wants to use your app. So when do you?
Yeah. So I actually have some experience with Java and Android Studio. So I am looking into creating an app on Google Play, and then hopefully after the App Store. I don't have much experience with that, but yeah, I am starting to work with Android Studio, which will allow me to create it on the App Store. So right now, unfortunately, it's not there, but it's coming.
Wonderful. So yeah, so there are people definitely waiting for, to try out your app. So this is awesome.